This is your coffee break on HANradio.com.
It's Monday, August 10th, and this is your new special half-hour edition of your coffee break. I'm Kate Czaplinski, back in the Shelton studio after the HAN network was on the road for a week in Vermont, visiting our friends at the Vermont News Guide, but now we're back. And later in this half hour, Donald Eng's going to come on to bring you your This Day in History report, and Rob Adams is also going to be joining us for a sports update. But first, we're going to get to some of the headlines this morning. A man is hospitalized after being shot in Bridgeport early Sunday. Police were informed that a 24-year-old man suffered from 2 gunshot wounds, one to the hand and a superficial wound to the stomach in an incident near the corner of Harrell Avenue and Center Street in Bridgeport. A family member took the victim to St. Vincent's Medical Hospital, where he was listed in stable condition on Sunday. Anyone with information on the incident is asked to contact Bridgeport Police at 203-581-5100. In other news, environmental officials released the names of the people involved in a serious boating accident that happened on Sunday in Haddam. 22-year-old Joseph Baruso of Woodbridge was charged with first-degree reckless operation of a vessel while under the influence of alcohol and drugs. The Department of Energy and Environmental Protection said 23-year-old Stephanie Ryan of Bethany had to be taken to Hartford Hospital after suffering injuries from the boat's propellers. Ryan was listed in stable condition with injuries to her lower extremities. The owner of the boat, Ronald Baruso Jr. of Hamden, was also in the water and suffered injuries, according to the DEP, but he was not seriously hurt. DEP said the victims jumped off the boat to swim in the Connecticut River. It said Joseph Baruso decided to restart the boat and move it closer to the swimmers. 6 people were on board the vessel at that time. Pro Football Hall of Famer and Greenwich resident Frank Gifford, who led the New York Giants to a league championship in 1956 and later teamed up with Howard Cosell and Don Meredith in the Monday Night Football booth, died Sunday. He was 84 years old. In a statement released by NBC News, his family said Gifford died suddenly at his home of natural causes Sunday morning. His wife, Kathy Lee Gifford, is a host for NBC's Today Show, and I know later when Rob Adams comes on for his sports update, he's going to be talking a little bit more about Frank Gifford's legacy. Moving on to some news out of Milford, the Milford Police Department's Special Investigations Unit is looking for a missing teenager they said left his home on foot after a dispute August 5th around 5 o'clock in the evening. 15-year-old David Ayers is described as a white male, about 5 feet 5 inches tall, 175 pounds, with brown hair and green eyes. He was last seen wearing tan shorts, a black sleeveless shirt, and carrying a purple and black backpack. Friends and family are concerned for David's welfare and safety. Anyone with information regarding his whereabouts is asked to contact the Milford Police Department at 203-878-6551 or call Detective William Haas at 203-783-7471. You can also visit milfordpd.org and click Crime Tips if you have any information. Police said he may be in possession of a black pellet-type gun. For updates on that story, visit milfordmirror.com. According to the Associated Press, an 18-year-old Marlboro man is in the hospital with serious abdominal injuries after an unknown object that had been thrown into a bonfire exploded. State police say Robert Hill and several other teenagers were gathered at a bonfire around 9:45 Sunday night when the object contained inside a plastic bag was placed in the fire. The explosion sent fragments flying, some of which struck Hill. No one else was hurt at the time. Hill was treated at the scene by EMTs and was then flown to Hartford Hospital. The cause of the explosion remains under investigation. In other news, average gasoline prices in Connecticut fell 4.4 cents per gallon in the last week, averaging $2.77 per gallon yesterday, according to GasBuddy.com's daily survey of over 1,500 Connecticut gas stations. This compares with the national average that has fallen 5.4 cents per gallon in the last week to $2.60 per gallon. Prices Sunday were $1.04 per gallon lower than the same day a year ago. ago and are 14.8 cents per gallon lower than a month ago. The national average has decreased 16.2 cents per gallon during the last month and is 87.9 cents per gallon lower than this day 1 year ago. A pair of nesting bald eagles and their eaglet have become stars in a Milford Beach neighborhood where people have been gathering since February to watch nature at work and watch as a state endangered species works its way back into the environment. Louis Sparrow of Milford is an avid bird watcher. He has spent considerable time photographing the birds and their nest after spotting a bald eagle fly overhead in February and then locating the nest. And if you're watching us right now on the live stream, you can see one of Louis's photos. Neighbors have been watching the nest too, and when the female started to stay home while the male flew off in search of food, the eagle watchers got excited. Then one day, he said, a tiny little head popped up. The eaglet fledged about a week ago, meaning it was able to fly from the nest. Some 10 to 13 weeks after the hatching, the eaglet can take its first flight. It's not just the neighbors who are thrilled that these birds have moved in and produced a successful nest. Some local bird enthusiasts has said it's the first nesting pair of bald eagle in Milford in 70 years. There were a number of years that bald eagles could not be found in the entire state, according to the DEP. The bald eagle went from being common in the early 1700s to extremely rare in the lower 48 states by the 1960s, according to the DEP. In other news, a major computer system overhaul that will allow the State Department of Motor Vehicles to offer more services online will first require that all of the DMV offices remain closed this week while the work is done. If you need a driver's license issued or renewed, or if you have a driver's test scheduled this week, those will be available according to a DMV press release. The agency's shutdown will allow for the integration of databases and the transfer of technology from one system to the next, as well as the testing of various components of the system to assure they work as designed. According to the DMV, this cannot be done while the agency conducts transactions, and it needs to be done during the business work day. The AAA of Southern New England can also process driver's license and state ID renewals at its offices, including in Fairfield, Norwalk, Stamford, Danbury, and Milford. For a full list, you can look up AAA of Southern New England. Officials warned that when DMV offices reopen next Tuesday, the lines and wait times will be even longer than usual because of the pent-up demand. This is your coffee break live on the HAN network. We're going to step out for a quick break, come back with Donald Ang with a look back on this day in history, and be joined by Rob Adams for a sports update. That's coming up after this.
Your child has fallen and broken his arm. You need to see an orthopedist fast. Think Coastal Ortho Express in Norwalk. Don't wait hours in the ER. Save a trip and money by going straight to an orthopedic specialist at Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care in Norwalk. No appointment necessary. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, 203-845-2070. Open Monday through Saturday in the iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk, or call 203-845-2070. Fast.
A variety of food trucks, hands-on activities, live music, a different theme every night, plus top women's tennis. It's the 2015 Connecticut Open presented by United Technologies. Be there as some of the world's best competed at the largest pro tennis event in New England. And catch famous players John McEnroe, James Blake, and more in the men's Legends event presented by PowerShares Series. It all adds up to one legendary week, August 21st through the 29th, at the Connecticut Tennis Center in New Haven. Get your tickets at ctopen.org.
Healthy, confident smiles begin at Stratford Orthodontics. Conveniently located on Main Street, we are Stratford's hometown orthodontist. We offer the latest in orthodontic technology, including Damon braces and Invisalign. We always accept new patients. Call today to schedule a complimentary consultation. 203-375-8332. Stratford Orthodontics, 2499 Main Street, Stratford. 203-375-8332. And online at stratfordsmile.com.
Hersom Acorn and HANradio.com.
And we're back on this beautiful Monday, August 10th, with your coffee break. Kate Czaplinski, and I'm now joined by Donald Ang, who is going to take us way back.
It is a beautiful Monday. In fact, I didn't realize it because, it's like I feel like, No, I'm just kidding.
Did you miss us last week, by the way, Don?
I did miss you guys. It was coffee for one.
Yes.
Although I did get some Monroe Courier editing done, which was
That's
which
good.
was nice.
Well,
so
all our coffee breaks were live from Vermont. We had a blast.
That did look like fun.
But take us back, Don.
We go back to 1519. Ferdinand Magellan, with 5 ships and 270 men, set sail from Seville to circumnavigate the globe. His second in command, Juan Sebastian Elcano, will complete the expedition 3 years later. Magellan himself died in the Philippines after attempting to forcibly convert the natives to Christianity. 3 years after leaving with 5 ships and 270 men, 1 ship and 37 men returned. Also, coincidentally, on this same day, 471 years later, the Magellan space probe reaches Venus. 1793, the Musée du Louvre officially opens in Paris. Originally built as a 12th century fortress, the Louvre is one of the largest museums in the world and one of also the most visited, attracting 9.7 million visitors in 2012. A larger museum than the Louvre would be the Smithsonian, which on this date in 1846, officially chartered by the United States Congress after British man James Smithson donates $500,000 for the dissemination of knowledge. Now consisting of 19 museums, 9 research centers, and a zoo, the Smithsonian is the largest such complex in the world. Every year, approximately 30 million visitors are admitted without charge. 1977, Yonkers, New York, 24-year-old postal employee David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, arrested for a series of killings in New York City over the last year. And finally, 1988, an attempt to make right one of the great wrongs in American history.
88 by President Reagan.
The legislation that I am about to sign provides for a restitution payment to each of the 60,000 survivors, surviving Japanese Americans, of the 120,000 who were relocated or detained. Yet no payment can make up for those lost years. So what is most important in this bill has less to do with property than with honor. For here we admit a wrong. Here we reaffirm our commitment as a nation to equal justice under the law. Thank you all again, and God bless you all. I think this is a fine day. Yeah.
Of course, Ronald Reagan, 1988, signing the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, which provided $20,000 payments to surviving Japanese Americans who were either interned or relocated by the United States during World War II. And if you were watching the video, it was a pretty powerful video because you saw some of the survivors. They were, by then would have been in their 60s and 70s. They were dabbing tears out of their eyes. So a great moment, I think, in America. Sometimes there's a sense that an apology makes you look weak. In this case, I think Ronald Reagan made it pretty clear that an apology makes you look strong. That, as you look back in history, August 10th, I remain Donald Ng.
All right, Don. Thanks for coming on and joining us.
Anytime.
All right. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And now I'm going to throw it over to Mr. Rob Adams, who was also in Vermont last week.
Yes, I was.
You happy to be back, Rob?
I think so. I mean, it was kind of, there was part of me that was bummed to leave, but it was certainly a good weekend to rest up. So good morning, Kate. Good morning, everyone. Some news out of Darien before we get to Frank Gifford. The passing of Jim Mulhern, a strong supporter and fan of Darien High School football, passed away Saturday night. He was 68 and suffered from ALS. He had attended nearly every Darien High School football game this past season and shared his knowledge and passion for football with the team. So I know they did the Ice Bucket Challenge in honor of Mr. Mulhern, so I just wanted to make sure we passed that along. That came out a little earlier. And, of course, the passing of Frank Gifford as well, and really so many things can be said about Frank Gifford. For me, I got to know him as a play-by-play announcer with Monday Night Football in the 70s with, of course, that classic trio of Howard Cosell and Dandy Don Meredith. He and Don Meredith were lifelong friends, but, of course, he was a Greenwich resident, and I had the opportunity to interview him just after 9/11, coincidentally, back in 2001. We chatted about, among many things, kind of restoring the nation and, the patriotism of the time, but Also, the one thing that Frank Gifford never liked to talk about, and of course it was my very first question to him, was about the quote-unquote greatest game ever played, the 1958 NFL championship game between the Giants and the Baltimore Colts, which the Colts won. First national televised football game of interest, first overtime game, and of course, the Giants lost in overtime on the Allen Amici 1-yard touchdown run. But Mr. Gifford never thrilled to be asked about the greatest game ever played. But he did become a broadcaster and a good sportscaster. Originally here in New York, where he was as big a popularity, not quite as Mickey Mantle, but he was right there next to Mickey Mantle in the 1950s. Of course, famously slammed to the turf by Chuck Bednarik in 1960, and on, more of which we'll talk about on Nutmeg Sports at 2 o'clock. I've got some audio that we'll play. I'll play some different audio at 2, but I found a little something. This is a fairly iconic call. Probably don't have time to play the whole thing, but we'll give you a little flavor of what Frank Gifford sounded like. This in a different sport, downhill racing, Innsbruck, 1976.
Well, Frankie knows what he has to do because most of the tough competition has already gone ahead of him. He's the last man in the first seating group of 15. He knows Brucey is in first place. He knows what he has to do. You can be sure with all the pressure that's riding on his shoulders that he has trouble right there. Trouble by Palmer right on the top. Trouble again, Frank. He's right on the edge. And he's right on the edge, and there's that intermediate time, and he's just 200ths of a second behind Brucey. And even with those mistakes...
A little sample of Frank Gifford working with Bob Beatty that day. Innsbruck, Franz Klammer's gold medal run in 1976. That's your sports for this coffee break. I send it back over to Kate. I'm Rob Adams.
All right. Thanks, Rob. Well, getting back to some news this morning, the Flower Lady may sound like a mythical being appearing like a good fairy to water the petunias and sweet williams and keep the blossoms colorful and fresh. But in Ridgefield, she's a real person and her name is Spencer Moore. And her floral domain has gotten larger recently, according to the Ridgefield Press, with the addition of flower baskets along Route 35 in the Cops Hill area, as well as the baskets that have hung for years on lampposts on Main Street, adding charm and color to summers in the village's commercial district. There are currently 32 new hanging baskets of flowers on 16 lampposts alongside both sides of Route 35 Danbury Road, between Marty Motors and the light at Farmingville and Cops Hill Roads. In the village, 110 baskets hang from 55 lampposts. It's a beautiful sight there in Ridgefield, and Macklin Reed of the Ridgefield Press took a short video with Ridgefield's Flower Lady.
Hey, I'm Spencer Moore, and I am the Flower Lady in Ridgefield. I water all the baskets on Main Street, and now we have a new section down by Stop and Shop. Spencer Moore. Hey, I'm Spencer Moore, and I am the Flower Lady in Ridgefield. I water all the baskets on Main Street, and now we have a new section down by Stop and Shop. And every day when I come out and water, I bring my trusty sidekick, Biscuit. She keeps me company, and she makes everybody
That's just
happy.
a little nice local video, and appreciate Macklin Reed capturing that for us. So for more Ridgefield news, go to theridgefieldpress.com. In other news, Connecticut's Department of Energy and Environmental Protection has scheduled a public information meeting in Milford to present plans for improvements to Silver Sands State Park. The meeting is scheduled for Thursday, September 24th at 6:30 p.m. at Milford City Hall. At the meeting, DEP will present plans it has developed to improve Silver Sands State Park by adding public bathrooms, changing areas, lifeguard and law enforcement space, and a snack bar with a wraparound deck, according to a press release posted on the state's website. The agenda for the public meeting will consist of a presentation of the project plans, followed by an opportunity for questions and answers in a one-on-one format with staff. The meeting will conclude with time for citizens to provide public comment on the project. There's a lot more on that at milfordmirror.com. You're listening and watching to your coffee break. We're going to take a quick break and come back with a lot more news after this.
Colby's is the area's premier retailer for blinds, shades, shutters, and draperies. and is one of the select few Hunter Douglas Gallery dealers. A family-owned and operated company, Colby's experienced staff will work with you in choosing the best treatments for your home or office and offer free measuring and expert installation. Colby's also carries an extensive line of decorative fabrics including Schumacher, Durley, Tebow, and more. Or browse over 400 books in our wallpaper library from famous designers such as Stroheim, Schumacher, Ralph Lauren, Tebow, and York. Take advantage of our Fashion in Motion savings event with savings and rebates on Hunter Douglas shades with Power Rise technology. Colby's of Ridgefield. We are committed to your complete satisfaction. 203-438-8531.
The long winter is finally astern. Bait is invading the harbors, coves, and inlets. Stripers, fluke, and porgies are on the move. In the streams and lakes, trout, smallmouth, largemouth, and walleye have moved out of hibernation. At the dock shop, it's all systems go. And now in 2 locations, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, and their newest location at 609 Riverside Avenue in Westport. Bait, tackle, apparel, and of course, all the marine and nautical accessories that they're known for are ready for you at the dock shop. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport. Visit us at dockshop.com.
You're listening to Hersom Acorn Radio.
And we're back on your coffee break, Monday, August 10th, live at hanradio.com/livestream. Giving you all of the headlines this morning, including that questions continue in the death of a woman at a Coscob train station Friday morning, identified by transit authorities as Tamara Lewis of Stamford. Lewis, who was killed the day before her 29th birthday, according to the Connecticut Post, was seated on the edge of the platform moments before her death. Metropolitan Transportation Authority spokesman Salvatore Arena said Saturday that Lewis was dangling her legs over the edge of the train as it was approaching. He said it was going 45 miles per hour or something close to that, and it's not clear what happened. He said the engineer hit his horn. That may have startled her. He said he believed that made her drop her purse on the tracks, and she went to go get it. Arena said the engineer tried to slow the train, which had not been scheduled to stop at Coscob, but it struck Lewis. She was killed instantly. Arena said MTA police are continuing to investigate, saying the accident happened so quickly it was difficult to sort out conflicting information. Among the questions investigators will seek to explore is why she was sitting on the platform and what prompted her to go onto the tracks. Arena said an autopsy will be conducted on Lewis's body that could provide more answers. In other news, a popular baby clothing maker is recalling onesies due to a choking hazard. Precious Cargo brand said snaps on its infant one-piece garments can detach and pose the hazard. They include the 3-snap bottom closure and are made of 100% cotton and come in sizes 6 months, 12 months, and 18 months. The garments also come in colors: athletic, heather, aquatic blue, candy, pink, clover green, jet black, lime, navy, purple, red, royal, sangria, white, and precious and yellow. Precious Cargo and an elephant are imprinted on a blue tag that is sewn into the neck area. The style number is CAR40, and they are sold for about $4. The company has recalled 479,000 onesies. It urged consumers to call 888-770-7018 from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Central Time on Monday through Friday, or head to preciouscargokids.com. All customers will receive a full refund. A man is hospitalized after being shot in Bridgeport early Sunday. Police were informed that a 24-year-old man suffered from 2 gunshot wounds, one to the hand and a superficial wound to the stomach, in an incident near the corner of Harrell Avenue and Center Street. A family member took the victim to St. Vincent's Hospital, where he was listed in stable condition on Sunday. Anyone with information regarding the incident is asked to contact Bridgeport Police at 203-581-5100. And recapping a story we mentioned earlier, environmental officials released the names of people involved in a serious boating accident that happened on Sunday in Haddam. 22-year-old Joseph Baruso of Woodbridge was charged with first-degree reckless operation of a vessel while under the influence of alcohol and drugs. The Department of Energy and Environmental Protection said 23-year-old Stephanie Ryan of Bethany had to be taken to Hartford Hospital after suffering injuries from the boat's propellers. Ryan was listed in stable condition, but with injuries to her lower extremities. The owner of the boat, Ronald Baruso Jr. of Hamden, was also in the water and suffered injuries, according to the DEP. He was not seriously hurt. DEP said the victims jumped off the boat to swim in the Connecticut River. It said Joseph Baruso decided to restart the boat and move it closer to the swimmers. About 6 people were on board the vessel at that time. The Milford Police Department's Special Investigations Unit is looking for a missing teenager they said left his home on foot after a dispute August 5th at about 5 o'clock. 15-year-old David Ayers is described as a white male, 5 feet 5 inches tall, 175 pounds, with brown hair and green eyes. He was last seen wearing tan shorts, a black sleeveless shirt, and carrying a purple and black backpack. Friends and family are concerned for David's welfare and safety. Anyone with information regarding his whereabouts is asked to contact the Milford Police Department at 203-878-6551. An 18-year-old Marlborough, Connecticut man is in the hospital with serious abdominal injuries, according to the Associated Press, after an unknown object that had been thrown on a bonfire exploded. State police say Robert Hill and several other teenagers were gathered at a bonfire about 9:45 Sunday evening when the object contained in a plastic bag was placed in the fire. The explosion sent fragments flying, some of which struck Hill. No one else was hurt. He was treated at the scene by EMTs and then flown to Hartford Hospital. The cause of the explosion remains under investigation. As we mentioned earlier, average gasoline prices in Connecticut fell 4.4 cents per gallon in the past week, averaging $2.77 per gallon yesterday, according to GasBuddy.com's daily survey of over 1,500 Connecticut gas stations. This compares with the national average that has fallen 5.4 cents per gallon in the last week to $2.60 per gallon. Prices Sunday were $1.04 per gallon lower than the same day a year ago and are 14.8 cents per gallon lower than a month ago. The national average has decreased 16.2 cents per gallon during the last month and is 87.9 cents per gallon lower than this day 1 year ago. And that's just some of your news this morning. If you missed any of your coffee break, we're going to be replaying it right after this, so you can stay tuned live on the HAN network. And coming up at 2 o'clock, Nutmeg Sports with Rob Adams. He's going to be talking a lot more about the passing of Frank Gifford. And we're going to be back tomorrow at 11 with more news, history, sports, and that's all coming up on your coffee break. So for the rest of the HAN network team, I'm Kate Czaplinski. Have a great morning.
Hersom Acorn and HANradio.com. The leader in local news, sports, arts, and entertainment in southwestern Connecticut.
Want to get in touch with HAN Radio? You can find us on Twitter at Hersom Radio, on Facebook at Hersom Acorn Radio, or email us at radio@hersomacorn.com.